Hey guys, I want to talk you through a transfer to my wheelchair using the Hoyer, how I do it. First, I back my chair up and put it in the middle of the floor so there's no obstacles around it for the wheelchair or the Hoyer lift wheels to get around it. And I tilt my chair back just a little bit so I'm at an angle when I get into it because I can't sit up for very long periods of time without getting winded or lightheaded. And I take the sling and I put it under my backside where the hole is. And then I put the sling at my knees and up at my shoulders. It usually rides around my shoulders to my knees, and then I roll. I tuck a little bit underneath me, so when I roll, I'm somewhat centered on it. And I have to work through my muscle spasms, and I try to make sure my pants are straight, so when I do get up, they're kind of in the center. Less adjusting later, better to do it before. And I just make sure I'm centered on the sling before I go and hook the chains up and everything. And then what I do is I use the sling straps to slide out toward the edge of the bed. You can see like the holes under my bed. My bed was lifted up so the Hoyer can actually get underneath, and I just pull toward the edge of the bed just so the Hoyer boom can reach around it, and I make sure I'm centered before I connect everything and before we start, lifting me up out of the bed. Then what I do is I bring the sling over and I put it right above me, about my upper stomach area or so, just so the chains are tight, and when it's completely jacked up, I make sure the chains are loose, to where they need to be to get me up off the bed and high enough to be in my chair. And then lower the boom down over me. And you can kind of see how the chains that are on my head side are shorter than the chains to my legs. That way I'm just slightly more sat up in a sitting position. And what I like about this sling is it's color coded. It has green, blue, green and blue straps. There's different sitting positions you can use with this sling. Now what I do is I hook the chains pointing outside, so the open end isn't poking toward the sling. One of my therapists told me to do that just in case it doesn't scratch you or catch on the sling itself and rip holes in it. And then we make sure the chains are tight before we do any lifting. Double check and make sure my wheelchair is turned off. And as I'm having her jack the sling up, I help hold my legs and kind of lift with the sling. That way I stay, it helps me through my spasms as I'm lifting up. And we just go ahead and jack the sling all the way up. Make sure everything's tight and secure. Make sure the pants are straight. And as you can see, it's like right above my shoulders. My one arm, I sometimes keep both outside of it just to kind of help brace myself. Just makes me feel a little more secure in the sling. It's scary once until you do it a few times to get used to it. But I always just take it slow and make sure everything's connected correctly. And what I do is I take the brakes off. I have her move just real slow. And I'm always double checking to make sure, the chains are connected, the machine is locked in lift mode, because there's a little tab you can turn to lower it, and there's a tab you turn that same tab to when you want to pump the sling up, or raise the boom, I guess. Then you just I make sure, you can't see it in this angle, but there's a spreader bar that spreads the legs of the Hoyer lift, so the wheels go in front of my chair and behind my chair. And I have her come around and use the sling to pull me into the chair and over top of it before I lower it. If I use the sling, it's kind of like my butt kind of gets caught on the sling or on the wheelchair. So it just makes it a little easier pulling the sling with me in it rather than trying to push it across. And I lower my other armrest down before I lower me down into the chair. And then she holds my feet before I tilt my chair just a little bit to kind of catch myself to where I'm a little bit more tilted. And I start lowering really slow, just a little bit, and then what I do is I kind of readjust, make sure I'm sitting back far enough before I put all my weight down. It's easier to do it before, I think, than to try to do it afterward. I just hike myself back just a little bit, adjust my chair. And then she lowers me the rest of the way down. And I hold my feet just so they don't, lower down on the pedals wrong or twist wrong. And then I get enough slack to where we can detach the chains. And I try not to leave the sling underneath me, just because it's a little more tight on, it's harder on my butt and back trying to sit on the sling. So after I detach the chains, I take the Hoyer out. And what I'll do is I'll show you how I take the sling out from under my butt. And then what I do after I put the Hoyer lift away, I tilt my chair back above the couch or above my bed, just so there's something behind me. Just, if something goes wrong, I have it behind me to catch me. But I tilt back as far as my chair will go, and I tilt the backrest back so most of my weight is off the sling. And then what I do is I take and kind of lift and hold my jeans so they don't slide. And I slide up just a little bit, and I push the sling down toward my backrest out from under my butt. And you kind of got to jam it way up there. The farther back you get it, the easier it is to pull, I think. And then I switch sides and do the same thing on the other side. You just kind of hold it, and I hold my jeans and push the sling all the way back as far as we can get it. There's Gordo making an appearance, my dog. He's so funny. And then once I have the sling far enough back to where it feels like it's mostly at the backrest, I'll tilt my chair forward. And what I do is I have them take their arm and go under my armpit, I guess, and kind of reach around just a little bit and pull my weight forward as they're holding across my chest. And all the sling is now at the backrest. So when they tilt me forward, all they have to do is pull the sling up and out. And that's pretty much it. I know I've heard of some people doing like a towel roll trick to where they roll the towel. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And hope you like and subscribe. Now I'm ready for my day.